Jazz, jazz, jazz. Jazz is a style of music that allows musicians to create music spontaneously. It is typically a style of music built around three main ideas: improvisation, swing rhythm, individual expression. Unlike classical music where everything is written and you get to play it exactly as you see it, jazz allows freedom. I would like you to see jazz as one of humans' fundamental and basic rights, which is right to freedom of speech and expression. In jazz music, a musician can take a melody line and improvise around it by either changing to a new melody line, decorating the melody line, or intentionally inventing new notes at the spot. Notice how I said inventing. Yes, jazz musicians are very good at creating new patterns at the spot while performing. Jazz music typically began in the United States in New Orleans, period between the late 1800s and the early 1900s. In New Orleans, different cultures resided there, like the Europeans, Africans, Caribbeans, Americans, and the likes of them. And each group had their own different musical tradition. Over time, those traditions blended together and created something new and unique, which later became known as jazz. The Africans, for instance, contributed by influencing with their strong rhythmic patterns, which later became the groove of jazz music. The Europeans contributed with musical scales, harmonies, chord progressions, and also musical instruments like the piano, violin, clarinet, and the likes, which allowed jazz music to be more explorative. Then the Americans, or should I say people who lived in America, contributed with their already existing musical style, like the blues music and the ragtime. Blues music is a style of music where musicians mostly apply to the blues scale for improvisation, or usually has the blues feeling like the swing rhythm, emotional expression, call and response, bent notes or slot notes as it is called today, and also the 12 bar blues, which has 12 majors or 12 bars that repeats in the pattern. Let's say, for instance, a chord progression like the 1-4-5 could be splitted to cover up for a 12 bar structure. Let's say bar 1 to bar 4 could have just the one chord, then bar 5 to bar 7 could have the 4 chord, then bar 8 to bar 9 could repeat the one chord again, then bar 10 to bar 11 could have the 5 chord, and it goes on and on till it can cover up for the exact 12 bar structure. Then the ragtime was the piano style, which was made famous in the late 1800s. It majorly introduced syncopation, which involves adding accents to unexpected beats. Let's say, for instance, a 4-4 time signature, which usually has strong, weak, medium, weak, strong, weak, medium, weak. The accents there would always be on the strong or the medium, weak, like strong, medium, weak, strong, weak, medium, weak. But the rap time involved added syncopation in unexpected beats, which is the weak beats there. So you would get something like strong, weak, medium, weak, strong, weak, medium, weak. This was the practice back then. So literally, jazz music is a mix of different musical cultures. New Orleans, of course, being the perfect city for that, where musicians from different cultures played together, and the mixture created what is called jazz music. The early pioneers of jazz music from the New Orleans, of course, between the periods of 1900 to 1920, we're talking of the likes of Buddy Bolden, Louis Armstrong, Jelly Roll Morton, and the rest of them, helped move jazz music from being a group playing to a solo improvisation, where you have each musician in the band taking turns to improvise solo. From there on, jazz music moved to the swing era, period between the 1930 to 1940, which typically involved large orchestra, but not exactly playing classical music because, of course, the soloist might be improvising and also the rhythm could be a swing feel. Also, we have the bebop era, the period around 1940, with major innovators like Charlie Parker, which features include fast tempo, intense improvisation, and complex chord progression. Of course, the cool jazz era, period around the 1950s, jazz music was more relaxed and smooth. Important innovators like Miles Davis focused on softer tone, relaxed tempo, and smoother melodies. And lastly, the modal jazz era, period around the 1960s, where musicians employed the use of modes instead of complex chord changes. This style has influenced modern day jazz greatly. In today's music, jazz can fit in anywhere: Afro, hip hop, gospel, anywhere. The core idea of jazz is simply freedom, rhythm, personal expression. Of course, you really need to know your music before you can achieve such expression, because most often you would be improvising around the chord progression. So it's not just random freestyling, it's structured. You get to borrow notes from other scales or modes, accent on strange beats to create a different feel, understand rhythm, and let the musical expression flow. Depending on the style of jazz music you're performing, it could involve you playing relaxed and smoothly, or playing the Charlie Parker style of fast tempo and intense improvisation. So the bottom line is, if you're interested in jazz music, you need to learn to develop your own voice. Two saxophonists can take a solo and they would sound differently even while playing the same melody. Also, I would advise listening to jazz musicians like Charlie Parker, Louis Armstrong, John Coltrane, Miles Davis, and the likes of them. Listening is one of the most important tools in jazz music. It trains your musical ear, and also subconsciously you begin to imitate these great players' musical languages. Also, learn and practice jazz licks. Study jazz theories like altered scale, modes, substitution, and the likes of them. Also, learn the culture of jazz. I just gave you a crashed history about jazz, but you could go on further to reading books that would explain deeply about it. Sometimes knowing the history about a thing gives deeper meaning to it. Lastly, I would advise you to be patient. Becoming a jazz musician takes years of development and consistent practice, not in any way to scare you, but to encourage you that it can be achieved if you put in the right amount of dedication to it. Alright, for now, that will be all. I hope you've been informed. Till next time, cheers.